So today's video is a little bit of an unusual one. Now, my SS1LE is in need of new brakes, that is rotors and pads. Now, SS1LEs have two-piece brake rotors up front, and said brake rotors will set you back above 400 bucks currently from Rock Auto. Now, it turns out that the rotor rings, which is really what wears out, not the aluminum hat, if you're familiar with two-piece rotors, that same ring comes on the two-piece rotors from a 6th gen ZL1. Excuse me, a 5th gen ZL1, right? My car is a 6th gen SS1LE, but the 5th gen ZL1 uses the same ring with a different hat because it needs a different rotor offset, right? So what I've done is I've purchased a spare set of SS1LE hats and a set of ZL1 brake rotors. Kind of a mess of stuff in here, but basically this is the same ring, a different hat, and this costs about 100 bucks less on average, and that's per rotor. So over 2 rotors you save enough money that the stock brake pads for an SS1LE cost about 250 bucks. So basically, you know, it's a little over $100 difference per rotor. You're basically getting the pads for the savings that you made on the rotors, so why not do that? It just requires a little bit of effort, right? These things have to be unbolted from here, and they have to be bolted onto the new one, and you need to use new hardware because this is torque to yield. And then you're gonna torque that hardware to 110 inch-pounds, so you need to have the right tool to do that, and you've got yourself a set of rotors 100 plus bucks cheaper than what you would have paid otherwise. Can't argue with that. So let's go ahead and get this thing going. Looking at these rotors, these are all 8 millimeters, and on the back, we also have an 8 millimeter head. However, this is a very weird 6-point bolt. Not sure why they did that. It is kind of a nuisance. I'm gonna go ahead and put an 8 mil on it and hope that it doesn't strip when I attempt to undo this. Let's see if my drill can handle this or if I gotta do it manually. Nice. Okay. I see evidence of Loctite on the screw here, so I'm going to assume that Loctite should be used when putting these on. Alright, let me just drop this over here, and we'll go ahead and undo all of these. This is an anti-rattle clip. Some people have said that the nuts is actually what you can't reuse, and you can reuse the bolts. My personal recommendation is just use all brand new hardware because it's safer and you don't run that risk. He said, she said, you know, I wouldn't stake my life on what some rando on the internet said or didn't say. Think about that. It's always safest if there's a torque to yield situation to just use new bolts. That being said, I do detest the love they seem to have for torque to yield on these cars. I mean, the alignment bolts are supposed to be torque to yield. I have all brand new alignment bolts I need to put in. Thus far my car has, what, 3 alignments on the same bolts. I'm pretty sure that's not ideal or safe. Unless they're never yielding them. Obviously, if you can do this in a vise with something to protect the rotor face from the jaws of the vise, it's obviously a much better play than just holding this up manually like I'm doing, but I do have a vise. It happens to be bolted on a table outside in the Florida heat where my dogs are, which means I'd also be constantly interrupted by my dogs if I go out there to do this. So I'm gonna do it comfortably in the air conditioning where I don't have a crowd, because I do have 3 dogs, so. Keep all this junk together so easier to toss out. So these are a 2-piece floating rotor design. I've seen a lot of aftermarket brakes that are especially like custom built for certain applications where they just bolt the aluminum hat directly to this, and I guess that kind of works, but that really defeats the purpose of making this part of aluminum, because part of the goal is that this should float, right? That the aluminum can expand and contract, which it does expand and contract at different rates than steel does, right? And that expansion and contraction can be accounted for this by these sliders, right? But oh well. All right, that is done. Now we can pop this out and we can transfer these onto our other hats. Then we can rebuild this rotor. All right, so we throw on some gloves. I did kind of spray down the used hats that I got with brake cleaner, and I also went over the backs with a wire brush, a brass wire brush that won't scuff aluminum, but just remove some of that rust. All right, so here is our hat. Let's slide our hardware off our other hat and get it onto this guy. Everything seems to be fitting well. These hats are a little ugly, but that's okay. They don't have to be pretty to get bashed up and down an autocross or a track, so there we go. Drop this guy right in. Kind of got to align these little guys. And there we go. It's in. So now I'm just going to come in through the back with my screws and go ahead and just lightly install them. Nothing crazy. I'm not going to torque them just yet. So I can lift this, screw in through the back. All right. Now the anti-rattle shim has like a little lip on it that sticks out that goes into this hole here. Right, goes like that. And you go ahead, just put the nut on. I've imitated the Loctite on the other bolts. So you see these are Loctited. I'm gonna just go ahead and go around doing this, and then I'll tighten them down just till they're snug, and then I'll come back in with a torque wrench and torque them down real nice. And I see that this actually comes with some new screws to hold the hat onto the hub. That's nice because these screws are usually made out of something crummy, so your old ones tend to corrode, and then like you'll have to drill them out to get them out. So good to have new ones you can pop in. You don't really have to do that. You don't really have to put that on. That was mostly for ease of assembly at the factory from what I understand. So, right, most cars, plenty of them don't even have that, right? There's nothing there and the rotors are slapped on, it's a floating rotor. So you could potentially not do that. I'm gonna do it, and from, you know, on the off chance that it has some safety purpose, I have to give you a disclaimer that you may be taking your life into your hands and you should put the stupid little bolt there. FYI, you're probably not, but you know, don't take any risks. Put it all back how it was from the factory, and I won't take responsibility for what you choose to do. You are an adult, it is your car, do as you will. Try not to get yourself killed. That. Yeah, try not to move these around too much when you're doing it, because you end up popping it. So I'm gonna do one on the opposite side real quick, and that's just gonna keep that from shifting, which will keep that from happening as I'm messing with this. That way I can yank it up by the hat and it won't matter. Always remember the orientation of the anti-rattle shim. Do not get that wrong, or it will not do its job. There we go. Now I can keep going from over there. I'm sure someone somewhere has probably assembled this without the anti-rattle shims and then hated their life afterward, because two-piece rotors tend to make noise if you don't have something like this in place. Right, the little clip just kind of like controls some of the shifting, so you don't have like a bunch of clicking and clacking coming off your rotors. I had these Willwoods on my Tacoma, and it was something a fabricator built, right, and there was no anti-rattle anything. Sometimes it would make some weird noises when you would hit the brakes at low speeds. Willwood calipers also sometimes make some noise, because like ones I had didn't have any like dust boots or anything. It was really better suited to being a racing caliper than anything else. Transferred those to the Miata. I have a video on that if you guys haven't seen it. If you happen to have a Miata, I used the 949 Racing brackets. They're like box brackets, which were pretty interesting and pretty good idea. With those same Willwood Dynalights that were on my truck. And I used 949 Racing's brake lines, made the car's braking really nice. I love 949. They have a lot of like really neat things for sale. If you have a Miata. And now I think they have like stuff for the FRS, maybe a couple other platforms, but pretty good company. I like buying stuff from them. I have their lug nuts too. I'm probably end up putting their lug nuts on my truck. My current lug nuts are rusty and they look like crap. Alright, so now that this is done, I'm just going to go ahead and snug them down using my drill and my wrench here. The only thing that I would say is probably try not to overdo it with the drill, because you don't want to go beyond the torque that you're supposed to bring these to. Alright, so just snug it, and before the drill starts click, 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 you know, stop. By the way, before I get too excited, this should be done in a star pattern, right? You gotta come across, because this is just kind of like mounting a wheel to a car. So I'm going to come across to my next guy and tighten this one. And when you torque it, you want to follow the same sequence. Oops. You don't want to do that. Don't let it clack. I seem to be missing hardware here. Why? This one, forgot to put in. Don't forget to put anything in. You want all the bolts in place. All the bolts and all the nuts. These two are the last ones. Now, according to K&S brakes, these things go on at 110 inch-pounds. So, we're going to calculate whatever that is in foot-pounds, because I do not have a torque wrench that reads inch-pounds. However, it's probably going to be like the lowest setting that my torque wrench does. Let's find out. So it would seem that the torque value for these is 110 inch-pounds, which translates to just over 9 foot-pounds. That means I gotta use the smallest torque wrench I own, and honestly 9 foot-pounds is probably what that's already at. You can go way beyond that with your bare hands. So let me go check for my torque wrench and see if I can pull this off. So luckily the smaller of my two torque wrenches can even go lower than 9 foot-pounds, so looks like we'll be able to do this. So you want to have an accurate reading, so you want to do this torque wrench on the nut. There we go, it clicked. Now, knowing that it's 9 foot-pounds, I am seriously starting to question the notion that these are torque to yield. Who knows, maybe I'm wrong, but could you yield some? These bolts with just 9 foot-pounds of torque? My engineering brain says no. But I could be wrong. You know, I leave it up to you guys to research. But either way, make sure you use new hardware. You don't take unnecessary risks. The advice will definitely make this better. By the way, if you're the type of guy that struggles with keeping these patterns intact in your mind, you can take a Sharpie and just number them, and that will make your life a lot easier when you're doing this kind of thing. We're not all the type of weirdo that can keep this together. Apparently I am that type of weirdo. that's that. It's all bolted on, and I can go slap these on the car. I'm going to do this to the other rotor, and process is all said and done. So if you do feel that you need numbers in order to help you get your torque sequence correct, this is one way to do it. You can draw it on the shims, right? So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. And that way you guarantee that you're going across correctly. You know, you're not skipping any one of them. Not necessary, you just keep spinning it the same way, but sometimes it helps you keep stuff in mind, and it's a nice added safety feature. You want to make sure that all of these are torqued down correctly. You don't want to leave anything undone. So that's how you can assemble brake rotors for a 6th gen SS1 LE for the front, using front brake rotors intended for a 5th gen Camaro Z01. Now, obviously, when you're doing this, you are taking a certain risk, right? You're disassembling a brake component and assembling it yourself. Even if you follow the right sequence and the right torque, there is a possibility for error. So your safety is in your hands. If you do this, responsibility is on you, right? If you just used pre-assembled rotors from Brembo, liability and responsibility is on Brembo. The second you went and did this, now it's on you, right? I take no responsibility for your final results here. I can only take responsibility for my own. I suspect that it will work quite well. Pretty good at doing basic mechanical tasks. I have a master's in mechanical engineering. I've done a lot of this stuff in the past. I can't say what your results will be, and I take no responsibility for what happens to you, so keep that in mind. I highly doubt any of you will actually have a problem, by the way, but if you do, it's on you. I take no responsibility. It is on you. All right, so full disclaimer, that is what it is. I already have these rotors on my car, and I'm driving around, and I did the whole brake burn-in procedure, no problems. I've slammed my brakes from high speeds at this point just to test them in the middle of the night. It's good. It worked out for me. Again, for me. Your mileage may vary, but it's rocking. I'm ready for my next autocross event. I'm ready to go hit the track. Definitely going to be doing a lot more work on the Camaro. I actually have a rear diffuser off of ZL1 that I'm going to be installing on there and showing you guys how to do that. So I definitely have a bunch of more Camaro content coming up. If you guys have any feedback, any questions, feel free to leave that in the comment section. And if you want to keep seeing more things like this, feel free to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, etc. And as always, thank you guys for watching.